Archetype is a tool that lets designers like you very quickly and easily create consistent typography styling and spacing for all your creative projects live in the browser. These styles are all underpinned by tried and tested typographic best practices such as modular scale and baseline grids, which we'll come on to shortly. But this means Archetype can play a valuable role in the bigger picture of creating your design system of consistent and reusable components. Now these components can then be easily implemented by a developer, as all of the styling you set up using Archetype is outputted as developer-friendly CSS, which they'll no doubt thank you for. So without further ado, let's show you how this works. Firstly, a quick interface tour. This is the live preview, so you can see here all of the various typographic elements that you might need in your design. Any changes you make are updated here instantly. Over to the left here we have the editing panel, where we go through the various steps of setting up our typography design, which I'll come into later. One key thing to notice here is you can toggle between mobile and desktop. This means you can make settings for you can create your typography styles at desktop, come to mobile, make the necessary adjustments, and then you'll make sure it ensures that the typography you're designing works across a variety of devices, because you'll output this as CSS later on. Then just some general settings in the header here. We can turn the baseline grid on and off. You can change the colours of the fonts here and also the colour of the background if you want to experiment with your brand colours. And finally you can make all of the copy here all caps. You can do that on an individual element by element basis, which I'll show you later. So that's a quick introduction to the interface. Let's show you how it works. So step number one is picking font families. So here we can pick compatible font families really easily. Just hovering over the list gives you a preview of what the typography is going to look like, which the font family is going to look like, and clicking it selects it. So that's selected our heading. We can do the same for the body copy. If we want to filter by serif fonts or handwritten fonts, we can do that here. Currently all the fonts you can see here are Google fonts, Google Web Fonts. We are hopefully soon to be adding a feature where you can access your system fonts, so stay tuned for that. Again, very simple, just click on it once we're happy with it. So once we've got two visually compatible fonts, and I've picked these very quickly, so I'm not suggesting they are, we hit apply and we can move on to step two. So step two is where we pick sizes for our various typographic elements, and to do that Archetype uses something called a modular scale. So rather than arbitrarily choosing sizes by eye and spending ages nudging things around in Sketch or Photoshop, far better to use a base font size and a scale ratio to create this list of sizes here, which have harmonious proportions. So basically the base font size, which best practice is you use the size of your base font, so your body copy, so 16 pixels here, which is 1.6 EMs. And then you choose a scale ratio, and you'll see if we adjust this, it adjusts the sizes by which the base font size was multiplied. So it sounds a bit confusing, but essentially what we're doing here is creating a set of sizes we can pick from that all have harmonious mathematical relationships. So we know if we pick, for example, we want a slightly bigger H1, we just simply come up here and we pick a H1 from here in the scale. We know that these are still going to be mathematically related, so they're going to work visually together. And that's a much quicker and easier way of getting harmonious typography that's got meaningful relationships rather than arbitrarily choosing. You'll notice as well, if I pick different sizes for elements from here, the live preview behind here updates, so we can see what we're going to be left with. So once we're happy we've got a nice set of sizes for all the elements from headings down to body copy, we come over here, we hit apply, and we move on to the final step, which is where we adjust the spacing between our elements. So to do that, we essentially set up a baseline grid, which you can see in the background here. And the idea here is to quickly establish a pleasing sort of vertical rhythm that makes this content easy to read. So we can come over here, we can make this bigger, which is going to increase the spacing, the line height, and the spacing between elements everywhere. Or we can tighten it up. If we find a sort of rough overall grid that works nicely, we might well be done here, and we can move on and export this. But if you want, for designers who want control over every element, how everything looks, for example, we might feel that this spacing here is a bit too big, we can go off the grid and edit this element individually. So there's two things we can do here. This is quite powerful. We can change all of the global settings for a H4. So we're looking at H4. We could, for example, make them all caps, and that will happen everywhere. We can change the font, the letter spacing, etc. And that will work everywhere. But if we're interested in just changing the spacing between the heading 4 and the paragraph, if it's looking a little big, we come over here and we can just reduce the bottom margin, maybe tighten that up even more, and we can get that looking exactly the way we want. And we can do that for all of, not just the spacing between a heading 4 and any other element, but also we can do that for any element in the design. So it's really flexible, really powerful. You're going to get things looking exactly how you want. Once we're happy with that, we can click Done. So again, once we've gone through, we've edited all our individual elements and we're really happy with how everything's looking. We can view a clean preview here on a white background, just see our handiwork, see how it's going to look. A useful little feature here, if you just click pixel sizes on, if you do want to take this into a design file, sketch, PSD, you can see all the font size, line height in pixels here, so you can very quickly do that. We are working on an export to sketch feature where you'll be able to export your styling as a sketch file, which obviously will be a massive time saver, so do stay tuned for that one as well. And finally, the culmination of all our hard work, we can export this as CSS, so we click Send to Developer and we get developer-friendly CSS we can send straight to them. So this is really beneficial because we've designed live in the browser. We know the typography is going to look exactly the way we want, and it's also good for a developer because they don't have to dig into a PSD or a design file. They just get sent exactly what they need straight away. Everyone's happy. So you can see how valuable a tool this could be. A couple of future features, as I mentioned, the ability to download the fonts to use in your design software or send to the developer, and that powerful export to sketch, possibly PSD feature where you'll be able to style your typography here and then just export ready to use in your design software. So I hope that's been a useful little quick introduction to Archetype, a bit of a whistle-stop tour. And it's shown how valuable it can be and time-saving tool it can be. So please do give it a try and let us know what you think. It's an early version and we're keen to get as much feedback as possible so we continue to improve it based on what people need. So if you've got any thoughts at all, please do share them. If you click on this Give Us Feedback link, you'll go to a very simple Google form where you don't have to sign up to leave comments. You can comment freely, positive or negative. This will all be a huge help to us, so please do tell us what you think. Thank you for watching, and we hope you find Archetype as useful as we have.